Right. All right, my friends. This is Sean Gaylor. This is the Principal Liner Notes podcast. This is episode 101. And I am so grateful to have a dear friend and a dear bandmate here on this podcast. This is the inspiring, the upbeat, my ride or die, Rosaland Harvin. She is the assistant principal for instruction at Northwest Middle School in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She has just recently been acknowledged for her excellence in leadership and named the assistant principal of the year for Northwest Middle School. I knew Harvin. I was proud to be her first principal in her administrative journey as assistant principal. She was my assistant principal at Moore Magnet Elementary School, and I'm just so grateful and proud of her, and I'm excited for those of you that are either tuning in on YouTube or listening to this podcast, either on Apple Podcast or Anchor, that you get to hear her journey and to hear her words of wisdom. So, Harvin, and we do last names. So
Yes,
if you get confused, like who's Harvin, who's Gay, that's just how we roll. But
yes.
Harvin, welcome to the Principal Liner Notes podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Um, Harvin, when we talked at the beginning of or before the beginning of our press and record on here, I said
Mhm,
that I associate the word journey with
mhm,
you, and in our time together when we were at Moore, I do remember you mentioning that word every now and then, or
mhm.
making reference to journey.
Yes.
And the theme of this episode really is tracing your leadership journey,
Mhm.
and which I find to be very fascinating and inspiring. So when we talk about your leadership journey, what is that? What is that for you?
So my journey is my legacy.
Mm,
That's how I like to phrase it. Um, Coming up, I was not the brightest in the class. Oftentimes, I was overlooked because I was quiet, routinely engaged student. That's what I call myself. Because I was routinely engaged, I got a lot away with not knowing a lot because I was engaged in a classroom, quote unquote. Um, from there, it inspired me to want to be a teacher, right? So I started off in pre-K, teaching a EC pre-K class because in my mind, those were our underserved kids. Kids most people don't want to teach. Hard to fill positions. I got that position because of my love for my journey and wanting to invest time in other people so that they can then have a story as well. From there, I moved into a regular classroom setting and taught everything between kindergarten and seventh grade. From there, I decided, you know what? I want to be able to touch kids on a larger scale. And how can I do that to where I leave an educational legacy behind? And so that led me to becoming an instructional coach, instructional facilitator. And I was able to work with teachers and share my journey, share my knowledge, coach teachers to where they can have the same legacy, leaving the same legacy behind for the students they're able to touch. From there, it was time for me to move on to a bigger scale, right? So I've helped these teachers become classroom legacies with their students. Now, how can I touch teachers on a larger scale um, and help those lemon teachers become strawberry teachers, as I would like to say? How can I change the sweet to sour? And so, with doing so, I embarked on the journey to become an instructional leader. I wanted to be able to meet the masses, as I would say. And so that's what led me to become an assistant principal. I still was able to touch every child every day, more kids now because I'm able to go in and out of classrooms. But more importantly, I'm able to work with teachers one-on-one and coach them and give them what they need to get better faster and to be able to be that leaving a track of a trail, being a pathway for kids that needed that intentional support in the classrooms.
Hmm. So much there, so much goodness
Mhm,
there. And and I'm as you share that, I'm just thinking back to everything that you said. I was able to witness firsthand
mhm,
when we worked together, and I saw that impact, from how you interacted with students, how you interacted
mhm,
with teachers, how you interacted with parents, community, how you interacted with administration. I mean,
mhm,
this intentional notion of legacy is powerful.
mhm,
That may be a book one day for you, my friend. My
mhm.
journey is my legacy.
Yes.
When we think of ourselves as educators, we sometimes think about the stuff of school, right?
Mhm,
I get to PLTs. I got to write the lesson plan. I got to do the evaluation. I've got to do parking lot duty.
mhm.
And we
Car riding.
we car, we don't
Yeah.
necessarily say we get up and say, today, when I step into the schoolhouse,
Mhm.
I am going to echo and resonate my legacy.
Yeah.
So what what are those moves? What are those intentional moves that we need to make as educators to resonate with our legacy and to put our job or our calling within this framework of legacy? It because you don't hear that, we don't talk about that in principal meetings or assistant principal,
Right.
what have you, right?
Right.
It's the stuff.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
so so what is I want you to build on that.
So for me, it's focusing on my passion, right? So what's my passion? What's my legacy? What do I want to leave behind? The answer to that is building the capacity in kids. So when they leave us, they can be our future lawyers, doctors, mechanics if they want. Whatever you want to do, you have that push and that drive, and you have been built to withstand that by you having the capacity that you need, right? So when I walk into the building, my first thing is always be visible. Hug a kid every morning. You never know what they're bringing into the school, what baggage they have. Being in the classroom, do you see what I see?
Mhm.
Our kids, you know, on computers all day. How can you retweak that? Our kids getting what they need instructionally, socially, physically, mentally in a classroom setting. My goal every morning when I wake up is to do a to-do list so that I am one, meeting my passion, and number two, being intentional in my walk. So making sure that I'm visible, I'm in the hallways, I'm greeting kids as they come in the morning, whether I'm in a car rider line or I'm out there with the buses. I make sure I greet every single child that walks past me.
Mhm.
If a child needs a hug, embracing that child, have a good day, coaching that child, you know, this is what I want you to do today, setting those expectations. But then the follow through, going in the classrooms to make sure they're having that good day, in the classrooms to make sure that they're following your expectations and being visible for teachers, right? Making sure that
Right.
teachers are following your expectations. The teachers are leaving that legacy behind with kids and that we're being intentional with building relationships and those good rapports with students. Because at the end of the day, you can lead a cow to the water, but you can't make them drink. And so if they know that you're there for them, you love them, you care for them, you're being intentional, you're giving them purpose, they're going to rise to the occasion. And so that's my motto every day. The operational stuff of a school is going to be there, right? The having to do the fire alarms, having to do the PDPs with the teachers, having to do evaluations, that stuff is going to be there.
Mhm.
But being in the moment
Mhm.
to be able to pass your passion, your legacy to someone else, outweighs the operational aspects of a school. And that's what my intentions are every day when I walk into the building. Come in, I'm there an hour early. I do my emails, I do my phone calls, I do my meetings for the day, whatever I have to do. And then throughout my period of the day, I'm making sure I'm passing my legacy on to the kids because that's the reason we have a job, right? If they don't come to school and they're not getting an education, then we're not needed. And so I make sure that I'm in the classrooms, I'm in the hallways doing transitions, I'm in the bathrooms, in the cafeteria, I'm on that bus lot, I'm on that car lot, making sure that I speak to the kids, that they see me, that they know I care. So much so that when I'm not there, I'm getting emails like, "Where are you, Miss Harvin? We didn't see you today. Are you okay?" Yes, I'm fine. And that's from teachers and students. But it's because I'm able to leave that legacy and follow my passion and making sure that every day that I step into that building at Northwest, I do it with intention. I leave whatever baggage I have from home behind because the kids don't deserve that.
Yeah. Which is a good segue to my next question.
Mhm.
And one thing that I remember when we would work together, um, you would always when you would leave, and if I hadn't left yet, like I ain't leaving till you leave.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get
Mm-hmm.
home to Deb. You need to get home to your girls.
Right.
Let's go. Come on. It'll be
Mm-hmm.
here tomorrow.
That's right.
And so I know that work-life balance is so important to you,
Mm-hmm.
as a leader, as a mother. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so how with your passion for putting kids first, your passion for leaving your legacy, how do you
Mm-hmm.
balance that intentional work with the things that you need to do for
Mm-hmm.
your intentional life and home and your family?
Yep. So I always like this quote that says, "You can't pour from an empty glass." Right. So if you are giving 250% at work, there's nothing left for you to give at home, right? If you're giving 250% at home, there's nothing left for you to give at work. So for me, I kind of do a graph, as you would say, in my mind. And I always put myself in the middle, right? So in the middle is that self-care. It's that um, what are you pouring into yourself so that you're able to pour into other people equally, right? So I make my to-do list and I stick to that list. So I know I'm at work these amount of hours. So when I leave work, that's it. Work is going to be there. I have to turn that work switch off and turn the switch on for my kids. I do that in the car on my way to pick my kids up. I have that conversation with myself. Okay, today you had a really good day because you were able to do this, this, and this, and this. Or, okay, you didn't have a good day today because you was worried about this, this, and this, or it didn't get accomplished. And so then I always go to music as being my inspiration, right? And I think of two songs that always comes to my mind. First is Eye of the Tiger, right?
Nice,
That's my song, The Eye of the Tiger. So I'll play that. And then secondly, I'll play Don't Stop Believing.
nice. Journey,
Yes. And
journey.
I let them meditate in my mind. And so by the time I get to pick my kids up, I have completely transitioned to mommy mode, to wife mode. And I've allowed that transition time. I don't get out of the car to get them until I know I've made that shift, that transition. So that now I can focus on family and I can focus on my kids and I can be there 100% for them. And I do that intentionally every day. It takes a lot to do that. But at the end of the day, I remind myself that I can't leave a legacy with one and not the other. I have to be able to leave a legacy for my family and leave some of me, right, at the end of the day, to be able to give to my kids because they didn't ask to be here.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so I have to make sure that I'm able to transition my thinking cap and listen to how their day went and what happened with them at school. And so I do that by turning off phones. When I get home, the phones go in the room. And we have 2 hours of time where we're eating dinner. We're just talking with each other about how our day went. We're decompressing, as you would say. We're laughing, we're joking. I set the mood with candles when I get home. I always burn frankincense when I walk through the door because any stress that I have had or anxiety throughout the day, I don't want to then put that on my family or my kids, right? So another thing that I do is I leave my laptop in the car. During that time from 5:45, 6 o'clock to 8:30 is time for my family. So if you email me, call me, I mean, you can blow me up unless I know like, okay, I should be expecting this call because this happened today and I'm going to have to take this call. You'll get a return call 8:30 and on. And then at 10 o'clock, I shut everything down because that's now me time, right? So that's my time to sit and soak in the tub and to think about how my kids, what they need, the love and support. Did I give that to them? Was I able to help them? I put my kids in bed at 8:30. I have a high schooler and they say, you make your high schooler go to bed at 8:30. Yes, I do. I do. That is my time. I
Yeah.
can't pour from an empty cup, right? And then I know that now I have to get adequate rest. I have to rest, reset, and recharge so that I can do the same thing the next day. So it's being intentional with your routines. It's being intentional with your day. It's being intentional with the conversations that you have. And it's also intentionally being positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Now, when I think of the word or the title or the label instructional leadership,
Mhm.
um, you are you always come to mind for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I remember, saying when we first started working together, or the word prodigy came
Yep.
in relation to instructional leadership.
Mhm.
Um, as principal, part of my role is to coach assistant principals to being instructional leadership. Well,
Okay.
I didn't have to do that for you.
Mhm.
In
Mhm.
fact, I learned a lot from you actually, and because you just had this kind of natural gift for instructional leadership, and I just want you to riff on that.
Mhm.
What are those things that drive you as an instructional leader? What are those things that that I mean, that's your passion. I
Yeah.
always knew, and you'd get a look,
Mhm.
I got
Mhm.
out the way.
Mhm.
When you put on that instructional leader hat, I just went, it's
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
Um, so what is that catalyst for you as an instructional leader?
So I would say curriculum is my baby, right? That's where it all started for me. I am an investor, so I invest in taking time on Sundays to find webinars or to research, to find things that support the generation of children that we're working with today. I'm a big stickler on one size shoe does not fit everyone, right? So when I walk into a classroom, the first thing I'm looking for is um, feedback from teachers, giving that feedback to kids. Do I hear you say good job? Do I see you working in a small group and giving them that timely feedback that they need? Is instruction your focus? I'm able to walk into a classroom and tell if the teacher's bluffing or if the teacher really knows instruction. I'm able to look at the standards on the board and say, oh no, you're not teaching that standard. I walked in your classroom and you just started teaching. Or wow, I walk into a classroom and that lesson was intentional. It was purposeful. It was really planned out for the students. You were prepared. You were ready for the lesson for the day. And to do that, it requires me researching and staying on top of the changes with the standards, me knowing the standards, right? Knowing at least the anchor standards and knowing what to expect. Not to say you're going to know every single standard that there is, but to know the anchors and know what the standards consist of. Those things are important, you know. And so when I walk in a classroom, the first thing I want to know is, what are the students doing? I don't look at the teacher. I can care less about what their teacher is doing, because me being able to analyze what the students are doing tells me everything I need to know. Are the students authentically engaged? Are the students able to do the work? Are the students able to follow along with the teacher? Are they note taking? What's the intentionality behind this lesson? You know, is it a piece of worksheet that the teacher just pulled off a teacher by teacher and haven't invested in taking time to build a lesson that's going to differentiate for their students? And again, because I struggled as a child, I had those keen look fors for, oh, this child's just sitting here routinely engaged so they don't get in trouble, but they don't know what's going on. Looking for those higher order thinking questions, you know, are they embedded in the lesson? Is the teacher covering the vocabulary? Is the EQ and the standard just written on the board because you're in compliance with what we ask? Or are you really using that to gauge where your kids are? Are you using those to summarize the day? Are you using those to check for understanding? Is there a ticket out the door that's connected to those instructional standards you have posted on the board? So I think the lack of having when I was a child and just being pushed through because I was quiet, because I knew my mama would come up there with that belt and tear my tail up if I wasn't. It has opened my eyes to what really goes on in a classroom setting, right? And all teachers aren't bad teachers. That's how I keep it and keep it. And all teachers are not instructionally focused teachers. That has to be taught. So now it switches to the instructional lens through a coaching hat. How are you coaching the teachers, but still leaving them with grace? How are you allowing the teachers to see what improvements need to be made without you pointing that out to them, right? So it's that get better, faster instructional theme. Is the teacher modeling? Does the teacher know how to model? Is there a we do? Are they guiding instruction where there's a back and forth of collaboration between teachers and students? And then is there an independent practice piece there, you know, that the students are able to apply what you just modeled for them into the everyday curriculum? So it's being able to be abreast with standards enough to have those collaborative conversations with teachers, but do it in a way where you're leaving teachers whole and you don't make it feel like, oh my God, that lesson was just horrible, right? And it might have been a
Yeah.
horrible lesson, but what out of that horrible lesson is a star, because it couldn't have all been bad, you know? So what can I say? Well, you know, I like the way you rotated the room,
Mm-hmm.
but was your lesson intentional? You know, what thought did you put into that? How much planning time did you put into that? Where did you get this from? This resource from? Is it a resource that is research based? Or is it something that you just skimmed across when you Googled the standard and you felt like this would be good to use in a classroom? Having that thinking hat and PLTs, right, to really be able to challenge teachers. Well, what if I'm this one student who didn't get it the second time you taught it? What are you going to do? How are you going to reteach this for me? Oh, you don't know? Wait a minute. Here's a resource for you. So it's making teachers realize that it's not a I got you world. This is if this is what you want to be here to do, I'm going to support you world. And this is I'm going to help you get better faster, or I'm going to help you move on to where you really need to be. Because at the end of the day, ultimately, we have to make sure we're doing a service to our kids.
Which, man, I'm getting so many flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that, and I'm going to kind of combine two questions in one here,
Mm-hmm.
because I remember hearing you say, we're here for the kids,
That's right.
kids first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also remember we climbed a couple of mountains. We climbed several mountains together. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and one of those things is in small group
Yeah.
instruction. And
Mhm.
you would always, yes, small group, maybe this, that, or the other, or you may not like
Mhm.
it or whatever, but we've got
Right.
to put kids first. So what I want to do is I want to take that first variable of, or that
Mhm.
first fixture of kids first with the
Mhm.
variable of small group instruction in
Mhm.
in the through the lens. And I know we work together in elementary school, but so I'm just interested, how do you put that in the lens of secondary education, middle
Yeah.
school, where
Mhm.
sometimes middle school folks don't
Don't get it.
don't
Right.
don't want that approach, but
Right.
just go there.
So I always tell them, if I'm a student in your class, imagine me saying, don't teach over me,
Hmm.
because that's what happens. When you stand up in a class for 50 minutes in middle school and all you did was teach, you taught over me.
Hmm.
You didn't give me opportunity to collaborate with you and apply
Hmm.
anything that you taught,
Hmm.
right? And you lost my attention span. I'm 12. 12. I got 12 minutes to give to you before I blank out. And I don't know what you're saying. You're up there sounding like Charlie Brown to me. And that's always the analysis I give teachers. I'm 12, right?
Hmm.
In a staff meeting, how often are you checking your phone? How often are you looking through another tab on your computer?
Hmm.
How often are you authentically engaged, right? Most teachers may say, I don't know, the first 10 to 15 minutes of the meeting, right? So
Hmm.
if I told you that we're having an hour-long staff meeting and you can bring any electronics, no books, nothing, and you had to sit and listen to me talk at you for an hour, what are you getting out of that? You're going to leave frustrated, or you going to act up in a meeting, or you going to say you got to go to the bathroom, right, to buy time because you don't want to hear what's going on. These are all of the things that happens with our middle school kids when we're having a 45-minute block schedule and you're standing talking to them for 45 minutes. So I always give them that analogy first. And
Hmm.
then I say, so what can we do with this 45 minutes? Let's look at how we break this down. So you say it's not doable. I'm going to break it down for you. Your first 5 or 10 minutes should be a warm up. You're hooking the child. You're talking about something they had the day before. You might be reviewing the ticket out the door that they did before, 1 or 2, right? You've done your teaching. Now let's do 10 minutes of solid instructional based vocabulary and standard based teaching, right? So now I have either a math problem on the board, or I have a snippet of a passage that you're reading for the day, or I have a 1 page out of the novel that I want you to read. It's really like, oh my God, did this really happen? Okay. And I'm going to, as a teacher, bring the reading alive. I'm going to bring the math problem alive for you. I'm going to show you, as an expert reader, how to read this, how to get these, big tier 3 vocabulary words that you don't know how to pronounce them, and use context clues to understand them, right? I'm only going to do that for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to let you go, because I want to be able to come around and see, are you able to apply this? Kids need to be moving, right? Okay, you want your cell phone out? Get your cell phones out. We're going to answer this in cahoots. Get your phones out. We're going to do a flicker, and we're going to answer these questions. You're going to count off, and you're going to get in the groups, and I'm going to give you time to collab with each other and talk with each other and answer these questions with each other. And then we're going to rotate, and we're going to do a gallery walk, and we're going to see who had what, or we're going to use the clickers and we're going to put it up on the board and we're going to say who answered what. And I want to process your thinking. I want to know, why did you think this was the answer in your group? I want you to debate. I want you to come alive in my classroom. And then after we do that, then I'm going to give you time for you guys, 10 minutes max, for you to work independently, while I call Gaylord to the back and I say, hey, when I was walking around, I noticed, you kind of answered this wrong, or you seemed a little confused. Can you tell me where your thought process was at? Or, I walked around and I noticed you were not participating. Let's go through this because I really want to make sure you understand before I let you go. That's my 45 minutes. My kids have been authentically engaged. My kids have collaborated. They're being able to apply what I taught them. And guess what? Y'all leave my class tired. I don't leave you tired. And it's flipping that 80-20 talk time. Instead of me standing and talking for 80% and you guys just looking, and then 20% of the class, you're talking about stuff that's not even related to the standards. I flip that. I talked for 20 minutes, and that 80% of that time you worked and you were able to really make the connection for what I intended on teaching you for the day. And then I let you go. And so guess what? I just have alleviated the behavior problems. I got rid of you asking to go to the bathroom for 50% of the time in my class because you wanted to be engaged. You wanted to be able to talk with your friends. You were hooked by that 10-minute warm-up activity that I did with you. And so that's how I break it down to my middle schoolers. And we walk through it in PLTs. I have a gradual release lesson plan method. And I tell them, hey, bring the UPO or the standard that you're teaching, and we're going to break this down and we're going to act this out in PLTs. And then I'm going to come when I walk through and look for this to be done in your classrooms. So I make sure that I never let you leave a PLT meeting thinking it was purposeless, right? It was meaningless. It had some kind of substance to it. And now I'm going to follow up with you. So it's not, and I got you, because I've taken away the caterpillar of you saying, you don't know how to do it, right? Taking a swivel and recording a teacher. I have a 6th grade ELA teacher who is phenomenal, who no one would know he's just a long-term sub. But everything in PLTs, he soaked up. Everything I gave him, he soaked up. And you can walk in the classroom now, he can out-teach a teacher probably that's been teaching ELA in middle school for 20-something years. Because he soaked it up. And his kids, you never see a cell phone out. You can open the door and walk in his class. His kids never even turn and look at the door. They're that engaged.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that is kind of another echo I have from your leadership and our time together. You had this really neat way of zeroing in on talent and potential, not just for kids, but for teachers or teacher assistants or student teachers. I mean, there's a few folks that have had the gift of that Harvin insight, that Harvin advice, and it's just amazing. Every now and then you'd say, go down the hall and check that out, see what I'm talking about. Go listen to what she's doing. You just had such a way of doing that. And then also, one of the things I loved about working with you as well, and I know you still do this, is coaching up. You mentioned this earlier, like you coaching teachers up or coaching folks up. So for those budding or just starting or beginning leaders as they are about to embark upon their journey for leadership, as they're about to start looking at the world through the eye of the tiger, what advice, what wisdom would you give those individuals?
So 2 things I say, always go with your gut, right? Your first intuition. Intuitions are given to us for a reason, right?
Right.
The second thing I would say is, do now, ask for forgiveness later. Always respond in the era of kids. Always respond in the era of kids. And that is what 2 of the APs that I'm coaching now, that's what I always tell them. Let's walk. And then I asked them, and I kind of took this from you, what did you learn from that? What did you see first before I say something?
Yeah.
Because as we're walking and talking, and as you're talking to me, I listen to hear the things you didn't say instead of listening to respond. A lot of people listen to respond. So when you come to me with a scenario or a problem, or you come to me and you're able to talk to me about, let's say, a teacher, the lesson that you did, I listen for the things you didn't say.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's how I'm able to gauge what level you're on. And so for the APs I work with, I do the same thing. Hey, let's huddle, let's meet. What did you guys see today? Let's go do an instructional round.
Yep.
We come out, we get ready to breathe. What did you see? So I'm listening for what you didn't say, right? I'm listening for you to say, if you didn't say, hey, I saw the teacher asking specific questions to different students in the class. I'm listening for you to not say, I saw little Jonathan over here struggling with reading and when he was just flipping through the book. I'm really listening for what you didn't see in the classroom or what you don't say, because that's where my coaching needs to start.
Mm. Powerful. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember those huddles that we would have usually at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I recall it was you, me, our mutual friend Yvonne Lee,
Yeah.
and we would circle up, and it would usually be one or two questions. What was good that happened today? Where did you make an impact? And we would all
Sure.
circle up and we would talk about that. Then usually my pop quiz. What did you learn? Uh,
Yep.
what and now what are you going to do with that? What are you going
That's right.
what's your next move now that you've learned
That's
that and you've shared that? What's the next move?
right.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
and the power of the huddle is
Mm-hmm.
so to me, and I know you're a sports mom, a
Mm-hmm.
proud sports mom.
Mm-hmm.
That huddle. Yes, I mean sometimes we can call the play and do that, but also too,
Mm-hmm.
that huddle is that timeout for
Yep.
leaders. It's that time to take pause. It's intentional
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and it's that collaborative moment where
Yeah.
we're sharing, so if I'm the
Yep.
coach, hey, I want to make sure we're going in the same direction and moving the ball up the field. But
Yeah.
okay, or maybe you got sacked, during in
Yeah.
the cafeteria, or you had that
Yeah.
moment. What did you learn from it? Okay, be in your feelings, fix your face, Gaylord. I remember.
Get on out of it.
Yeah,
Right.
get on out of it.
Tomorrow's a new day. And I
That's,
tell I tell people that all the time. I tell my kids when they get in trouble. I tell the teachers when something is bothering them, guess what? Tomorrow you get a new day, a fresh start. Whatever happened today, learn from it. What did you learn from that? How are you going to apply that going forward?
mm-hmm.
I have one AP who um leads with emotion, right? She's a very emotional leader. And so when things get to her, ruffle her feathers, that's it. She's frustrated. She's done for the day. And I always have to pull her back in. Well, what did you learn from that? What did you take from that you can apply to your leadership journey? If you didn't take anything that meant anything, then don't worry about it.
Mm.
Let it go. Tomorrow's a new day. Um, because that's important to know. Every day you're granted grace to be able to start over,
Amen.
right? Every day you're granted that grace. And so that's the mode of things. Even with coaching, this is a moment, right? I'm not saying that you're going to need to be coached forever. I'm not saying that you're going to be a developing teacher forever. What can you learn from the feedback you were given today to apply it so that you can have a journey and you can have a legacy that you're leaving behind and that is a positive one?
Hmm.
That's important.
And
Especially as new APs is learning that you have not arrived. None of us have, right? We're learning. Every day I learn something new from somebody. Usually it's from teachers, and I've picked something up new that I'm like, okay, I can use that.
yeah,
Um, every day you learn something new, but if you have the mentality that I arrived, you're doing injustice for yourself.
that's one of the cool things in the gig as a principal and assistant principal. You mentioned learning from teachers, and I
Mhm.
love those moments, and I go, man, I wish I had that 20 years ago. I wish
Right.
I had, or in my case, 30 years ago. I wish I had that, when I
Yep.
was teaching this. I love and adore those moments when we learn and pick up new things from teachers. And I think that's important as instructional leaders and
Mm-hmm.
as administrators, that we have to have that openness, um,
Mm-hmm.
that we're still learning, we're still growing. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
how many degrees, how many
Mm-hmm.
books you've written, how many things you got on the wall. We are lifelong learners,
That's
and
right.
and we love school and we love learning. And man, I love that when I pick up something new from a teacher. Like, man, where were you 15 years ago when I was
Right.
teaching this? Man, and then the
Right.
important thing is to call that out and share that with the
With
teacher,
it.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
build that sense of belonging and connection.
Hmm. And make them feel like they have the witness. That was another big word for me, teacher witness. You got to make people feel like they have that, right? And so sometimes we know they don't have it, but how can we help them get it, right? Without making them feel less of a person, being able to coach them, help them get their teacher witness, but still leaving them wholesome when they leave you.
I remember
Mm-hmm.
I remember when you first dropped that bomb. May have been in the interview, may have been, but if I had $1 for every time you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned and preached the word and modeled
Yeah.
wickedness,
Yes.
this room would be filled with dollar bills, because
Right.
that's another key thing. So here's the thing, Arvin. This is what I need you to do. This is what I need you to do. All
Mm-hmm.
right. I I need you to, we're going to call it the Harvin Huddle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There's a template for building leadership or coaching new
Mm-hmm.
leaders or whatever. That's a
Mm-hmm.
blog post waiting to happen. That's an article waiting to happen. You need to play
Yeah.
with that. It's such a simple concept, but it's a powerful and important concept. So,
It is.
Harvin Huddle, next time I see you, I'm going to ask you, how did you implement the Harvin Huddle today?
I like that.
And maybe there's like 5 or 6 things that go with that,
I
so
write
it's,
that down.
yeah, you better write it
Yeah.
down. The
Yeah.
Harvin Huddle, uh,
Mm-hmm.
a way to build your legacy for kids, a
Mm-hmm.
way to build your withedness for kids. I'm telling you, that's you're a book waiting to happen, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are things that just things I didn't have. Like so often we're out here searching for like, oh God, I gotta find my passion. I have to look inside. What didn't you have? What wasn't installed in you? And then that's your passion. Drive off of that. Make that your go-to. Make that your love. Make that what you center your work on, right? Always coming back to the core of my why or
Mm,
your intentions
mhm.
for doing what you do. I tell teachers that all the time. Like, no one went to school to be a teacher for 4 years just to realize you wasn't making no money. You don't want to do it. You weren't gonna make no money when you started. But what was your why? Drive yourself back to that and never lose that. Because that's what's going to matter. The days that get hard. I mean, and I have had some rough days on my last couple year
I know.
journey. And times when I want to throw in a hat and say, forget it. I always think, well, what are you doing to those kids that don't have or never is going to run into somebody that's going to make sure they have?
Mm,
What happens to them? So you're quitting on them. You're not quitting on yourself. You're quitting on the thousands of kids and lives that you could have touched by helping teachers
mm,
help students.
mm.
Yeah.
One thing about you, Harvin, is that you transcend tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
you transcend challenge, you
Mm-hmm.
transcend anguish.
Yeah.
And for those who I mean, you became an assistant principal at the
Mm-hmm.
peak
Yeah.
of COVID.
COVID.
And didn't blink, um, came right in. Your transition was effortless.
Yeah.
When you were in it, you still led with grace and
Mhm.
style and vigor and withedness.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful for you. I'm proud of the leader who you are. I'm proud and
Mhm.
can't wait for your legacy to continue to resonate, and wherever your journey takes you. And now when I hear Eye of the Tiger or
Mhm.
Don't Stop Believing,
That's right.
I will forever associate those two great fight songs with you and
Mhm.
your journey. Rosaland Harvin, thank you so much for being on the Principal Liner Notes podcast.
You're welcome.
Most
Thank you for
importantly,
having me.
you're so welcome. Thank you for being that leader with legacy and withedness. And I'm so
Mhm.
grateful for your friendship. We're besties forever, my friend.
Forever, forever.
Forever.
I tell you, wherever I go, you going. Wherever you go, I will follow.
That's right. That's right. It's lifelong, my friend. It is
That's
lifelong.
right. That's
I
right.
wish you best of luck with the remainder of the school year. I
Yeah.
wish you best of luck as you advance in
Mhm.
assistant principal of the year uh,
Thank you. Thank you.
competition, and I look
Mhm.
forward to continuing to hearing great things of the positive impact that you're making for kids and
Mhm.
teachers in the community at Northwest Middle School. And I tell you the other thing real quick. You got it, y'all, just
Mhm.
real quick.
Yeah.
One of my earliest memories of Harvin, and I'm gonna tell you, if you can find an assistant principal or a bandmate that's gonna stick with you thick or thin. There was a
Mhm.
moment, I think we are in a school improvement team meeting. This was early. Remember that? And
Yes.
and and I was going down in flames,
Yes.
and the energy. I mean, my whole zen and chi was off.
Mhm. He was
Okay.
letting them suck you right on in.
And we were in a Zoom meeting, and I will never forget that. Next thing I know, I see Harvin, grabbing her pocketbook and hoofing to her car, getting in the car. She's still on the Zoom talking, and she's, looking at me,
Uh-huh.
she's driving and talking, and then the next thing I know, um, she comes
Mhm.
into my office,
Yeah.
okay, in the middle of the meeting, and said, turn the camera on, and just
Yeah.
said, when you said to me, fix your face,
Mhm.
get over it,
Yeah.
and make it happen, you
That's
know.
right.
And when you can find a bandmate that will drive across town in the
Right.
middle of the school improvement team meeting,
Yep.
and tell you to fix your face,
Mhm.
have that sense of trust and
Yep.
support. Principals, assistant principals, if you have that person or people, don't let
Mhm.
go. and
That's right.
and I'm glad that I've never let go, and I'm always by
Right.
your side, my friend. And I've always wanted to thank you for that, and I never had the
Mhm.
opportunity to do that, because you're like Haley's Comet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Haley's Comet, Roadrunner. Where'd she go?
Mhm.
Oh, she's at Northwest. But
Yeah.
anyway, uh, but but
Right.
but anyway, I've always wanted to thank you for that, and I wanted to make sure that I took the time in this podcast to thank you for that moment, but most importantly,
Mhm.
to thank you for your support and your friendship and your thought partnership. You're a true bandmate, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Just came hoofing in like, turn that off. Fix your face.
Fix your face. That's
Telling you,
right.
if y'all know who that person is in your life, thank them. Don't wait to thank them, and then hold on with both hands,
That's right.
because loyalty and trust and support and that kind of kinship,
Mm-mm.
any
Don't come
organization,
often.
it does not come often. It's once in a lifetime, maybe twice. But anyway, thank you so much for being on the Principal Liner Notes podcast, Harvin.
You're
I'm always
welcome.
here for you. For those of you that are tuning in, I'm always grateful, anytime that you are tuning in or pressing download on the Principal Liner Notes podcast. This is episode 101. This is Rosaland Harvin. Be sure to follow her. You can follow her on Twitter at
Yeah.
Harvin Rosaland and
Yep.
follow her journey. And I know she will engage with you and connect with you
Mhm.
however she can. If you want to learn more about instructional leadership, if you want to learn more about building in small groups
Yeah.
into your instructional day or balancing work life, or even if you just
Mhm.
want to talk about Eye of the Tiger or Don't Stop Believing. Harvin
Yeah, I'm
Rosaland
here.
at Twitter. Be sure to follow her. And as always on the Principal Liner Notes podcast, there is a flip side. I will be there. I know Harvin will be there, and we will catch you on that flip side. Thanks again for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thanks again, Harvin.
Bye. You're welcome.